welcome to my riding journey, my horse journey, whatever you want to call it. This was my very first pony. So age 10, I got the lovely Opal, who was probably in her 20s, around 12 hands. She'd come from a friend, and so she was on loan to us. And she was everything I ever dreamed of. She was the perfect first pony. She allowed me to bandage her from head to toe in the yard every weekend when I was pretending to be a vet. She, took me to my first pony club lessons, my first little competition, which was combined training that you can see in this photo. She looked after me so well. She was previously a Philip Cup pony, so a games pony. So she was incredibly speedy, brilliant at bending poles, and just taught me so much. I mean, she really did. Before that, I'd been at riding stables for about 4 years. So I gained so much knowledge when I first started having my own pony at home. And we got stables because of Opal, and just it all kicked off because of Opal. Now, sadly, after about 9 or 10 months with that, she did a check ligament, probably due to all her years of being games pony, and so actually she ended up retiring. Is where the lovely Silver entered our lives. Now, Silver was actually on loan to us for just 2 weeks. We found somebody who said we could borrow her for, I think it was the school holidays, and I wanted to do some rallies, and 2 weeks turned into 2 years with Silver. So she was again in her 20s, good old-fashioned pony club type. I don't know if she was a Welsh or a Connemara. I can't really tell from this one picture that I have of her. I can't seem to find any other pictures. And she was 13 hands, and she was just such a good egg. Great to hack. Definitely allowed me to do more competitions, go to more pony club rallies. She perhaps wasn't the most honest jumper. She'd kind of been there, done it all. And I think in her old age, she was a bit like, I don't really want to do it unless you really, really ride me. So I ended up doing quite a bit more showing with her. So I do working hunters, pony club classes, veteran classes. And she always did very well at that. Also, her owner was a dressage rider. So it's really where my kind of love for dressage started out, because I got a lot of good training from early on, and me and Silver won quite a few dressage competitions, so that's why she's wearing that gorgeous big red rosette on her head. So we kind of owe it to Silver for my love for dressage. The same owners of Silver also allowed me to loan another pony, a much younger pony called Wizard. And as you can see from the photos, he was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, long flowing black mane, blue eyes. He was the coolest pony any child could ever have. Naughty as anything. I mean, was an absolute cheeky little monster when it came to jumping, and you really had to learn to use your legs if you wanted to get over the fences. But I definitely learned to ride well when it came to Wizard. Obviously, because his owner was a dressage rider, my dressage tuition continued, and Wizard helped me have a lot of success in dressage. He also dumped me on the floor a lot of the time, especially when it came to the cross country. Many pictures of me falling off and having black eyes and black chins, and yeah, Wizard never did anything for free. You had to be determined if you were going to get over the fences. Lots of fun rides. This is a picture from Stonor School ISO, which, to be fair, was a bit of a push for him, because it was about 3 foot and he was only 12 too. Lots of showing. We did a lot of mountain moorland working hunters with him, because look at him. What a little beauty he was. So we had many years with Silver and Wizard, heading off to lots of pony club shows and all that kind of thing, and just a great time. And then when I outgrew the pair, they went back to their owner, and my mum brought me a schoolmaster, because she felt after kind of a few issues with Wizard, she felt maybe it was time I had something that was a little more genuine. And we got the lovely Troy that was 13.3. He was 16, so he'd been there, done it all, got the t-shirt, and he was exactly what we wanted. He just he was a really scopy pony, actually. I mean, he used to jump 1 meter 10 like it was nothing. He loved his job and just kind of knew it. Worked quite hard on his dressage. He was not so much a dressage diva, but with, thankfully me loving it, we managed to get some amazing one-day event wins with him, and just had a whale of a time. And it was really nice for me to jump a little bit bigger and have a pony that kind of was a bit more honest when it came to the jumping. I think we did a bit of hunting. He was quite a strong pony, as you can see. I've got a Cheltenham gag on in the pictures. Lots of fun rides, and really just had the most lovely time. He was the sort of pony that everyone wanted as well, because when I went to a new dressage trainer, I remember the moment she saw him, she's like, I want that pony after you. And I was a bit like, oh, I'm not ready to give him up yet. But he went on to continue giving her son a lot of enjoyment too. He was just a fabulous pony all round. I started to outgrow Troy. We decided to start looking for my next horse or pony, and we ended up with a 15.2. I think he was about 9 years old, beautiful bay gelding from a dealer's yard in Oxford, and it was a bit of a disaster to begin with, I won't lie. That transition from ponies to horses is always so tricky anyway, and Basil was a little bit quirky, definitely not particularly honest, not particularly helpful at times, a bit highly strung. He was beautiful, like he had a great jump on him, he moved beautifully. He could have in his day easily jumped novice eventing if he behaved himself. But we had a very rocky, bumpy start to our relationship. I was pretty much overhorsed, and it meant that I ended up doing a lot more dressage with him than eventing initially, because my confidence when it came to jumping, took a bit of a nosedive. So I just focused on the dressage, and with a lot of work, we ended up doing BD together and having quite a bit of success, actually. Like, we went to regionals at prelim and novice and got placed. I think we went to the combined training championships. We won the Trailblazers, as you can see in this picture here. We definitely won some pony club championships with him. So we had a lot of success when it came to the dressage front with him. And as I kind of got bigger and older and stronger, I did then give eventing another go with him. And we had mediocre success. He was still a bit cheeky, to be fair, and he still had the odd few stops cross country. But he was gorgeous and very talented. He was just a bit of a quirky boy and a bit fiery, a bit spicy, but a lot of fun. Anyway, we had Basil and Troy at home. Basil never liked being left on his own. So we ended up getting the epic Sausage the donkey, who came from Bristol Horse Home. She had been in a racing yard previous, and previous to that she had been a Western Supermare beach donkey. And Sausage was a legend. She was incredible. She looked after those horses so well. We had her for quite some time. I mean, Corporal met her. And I never had a horse that was scared of her. We had quite a few horses in our yard from time to time. No horse was ever afraid of her. You could hear her a mile away. We used to occasionally sit on her and ride around the field, and she just thought it was hilarious trying to get us off. She was an absolute superstar and looked after our horses beautifully. She was the best nanny anyone could ever ask for. So with Troy now moving on to a new home, that left us with just Basil, and mine and Basil's confidence was at a bit of an all-time low when it came to jumping. So my mum and I decided to try and find another horse to run alongside him, and something that was hopefully going to give me some confidence. And oh, did we find it. We found the lovely Molly, who was 15'2", 8 years old. She hadn't done a huge amount. Irish draft cross, I mean, long in the back, neck up on upside down. I mean, she did not have good conformation whatsoever, but my goodness, this mare had a heart of a lion, and she'd do anything for you. Absolutely anything. If you told her to jump a bit of fencing out on a hack, she'd do it. She was insane. 1 in a million type of mare. Brought me so much fun, enjoyment. She got me going B a lot more. So I went from B90s to novice eventing in just 2 seasons with her. And I think in her first season, she was placed every time out, including a win at the B100 at Longleat. And she wasn't that flashy or anything like that, but she was just consistent and honest. And oh, I was so lucky. And I look back now and I don't think I appreciated just how wonderful she was at the time. At novice, she did struggle with the time a little bit. She was quite a chunky girl. So I even to this day, I think, God, I can't believe she got round novices. Excuse my facial expressions. You'll see as we get further into this video, I pull some absolute corkers. But yeah, Molly was a dream come true for me. She helped boost my confidence so I could ride Basil better. She was everything we could have ever wished for in this lovely little mare. So brave and loyal. So to give you now a little bit of an idea where I was in my life, I had just finished my AS levels. Molly, bless her, had ended up doing a check ligament out cross-country schooling one day, so she was off. And I didn't particularly love school. It wasn't really for me. And through friends for friends of friends, I ended up going to Denmark with my dad on just a weekend trip to see this amazing stable yard. And it really was just to look around. There was like 80 plus horses there, and it was really just to look, nothing more. However, I did take my riding boots, hat and jobbers. So I must have known I was going to be sitting on horses. And anyway, I got to sit on a few horses, and one of them turned out to be the gorgeous Mr. Corporal, who at the time was a 4-year-old stallion who had only just been backed. And when I say it was instant love, it really was. I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to have this horse. Like, he was just stunning from day dot. And I also managed to pick up a job while I was there. So I started working in Denmark, sort of being a groom there. Also got to do a bit of extra riding, got some training with Corporal. And we spent a good couple of months there in the middle of winter learning, and it just was a really lovely opportunity, really. However, I did want to come home. I didn't talk the language, and it was hardcore out there, so I wanted to come home so I could start prepping Coop for his 5-year-old season, where I hoped he'd go eventing, in which he did. And to be honest, Coop's eventing career has been something special, and the only person that ever let him down was me when it came to my show jumping, because I used to get my knickers in a right twist about show jumping. But he went from B90s to intermediate and what is now 2-star. He got placed at every level, but he also won at every level. level. He would have had many more wins if I hadn't messed up my show jumping, but he including a win at intermediate at Aston Lewels on a 26 point something double clear. He was obviously had the moves for being a great dressage horse, but he was also a great show jumper, and he loved his cross country. He absolutely adored it. I think he was like third in the B90 championships when it was at Aston Lewels. We got to go to some amazing venues with him. He just was insane. I mean, scopy, brave, fast. He was everything you ever wanted. We did a bit of dressage on the side as well, so I obviously still loved my dressage, and he won the prelim BD regionals at Kingston Moorwood, and I did BD for a few years when he was young, and then I stopped for a while we were eventing, and then obviously sadly Corporal did his hind suspensories in a sudden impact injury on my arena. He just jumped a fence and his back legs just gave way. And so he had 9 months off, and then when I brought him back into work, I didn't want to event him anymore because I just didn't feel it was fair to put him through that, and I wanted him to last. So we ended up doing just pure dressage and show jumping. So we did a bit of BSJ together. He won me some money, and that's really where our dressage took off. And he's obviously gone up to advanced medium. He's won at area festivals. He's been placed at quite a few regionals. He's been placed at the winter championships. I mean, how lucky can one girl be to have a horse like Corporal? Because not only that, he's just the most delightful person as well. Like, he's just very easy to look after. I mean, he was quite highly strung as a youngster, but he is my absolute one in a million. He is a total legend to me, and I feel so privileged to have been the person that got to own him and adore him. And just, yeah, I mean, there's no words to really describe how insane Corporal is, really. He's given me so much. It didn't always go to plan. Sometimes when I messed up my show jumping, I ended up hanging by his ears like I did in this picture at Gackham. A little bit embarrassing, I won't lie. But yeah, he really is truly a very, very, very special horse. So when I came back from Denmark, I then started becoming a freelance groom and rider, and I'm still doing it to this day now. So I was doing that as work while obviously bringing Corporal on. We also had him castrated when we brought him back, because as much as I would love to have kept him as a stallion, we thought it was probably not wise, even though I don't think he even realised he was a stallion. We sold Molly. So when I came back from Denmark, Molly had been off on rest due to her check ligament. So we got her going again, started doing a little few shows with her, and then I sold her to a lovely family who were going to do slightly lower level eventing with her, and she went on to be an absolute superstar for them as well. So at this point we had just Corporal. As I was working as a freelance groom and rider, I also wanted to bring a horse on along the side that I could then sell on to obviously make a little bit of money. And I went to the Malvern sales and picked up a very cheap 3-year-old thoroughbred called Woody, a beautiful thoroughbred, I must say, quite a stocky one. And I broke him in with a little help from the eventer down the road, and he was like my first horse that I properly broke in and sort of trained. He was a little bit quirky. He was kind of Jekyll and Hyde. One minute he was an absolute delight and you loved him to pieces, and the next minute he was stood up on his back legs waving his hooves at you. He was a bit up and down. He was not great to hack. He was a bit nappy, and he was a nightmare to load. But he was brilliant at cross country, and he was pretty easy to train, and he was quite an enjoyable ride. It's just sometimes he could be a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, we did a few bits and pieces with him. We brought him on. We ended up selling him as a hunt horse because we felt he would like the kind of busy lifestyle of being a hunt horse, and also that he would probably much prefer to load onto a lorry full of horses than kind of just be the only one loading to go off and do stuff. So we sold him to a hunt yard. Of these horses kind of crossed paths. So at some points in my life I had 3 or 4 horses on my yard at home, and this was the lovely Sparky, and he was my first like ride that was owned by someone else. So Sparky had been bred by his lovely owner, who had then had him with another event rider, and I think he'd gone up to intermediate, bit of a toe tapper as well. Very fast, very buzzy, very whizzy. She then sold him, and then in his later years brought him back, and she asked me if I wanted to event him for one more season, which I obviously snapped her hand off for. And yeah, he was very different to things I'd ridden before because he was so buzzy and so kind of wired. And also I'm not really a thoroughbred girl, if I'm being honest. So it was good for my training to ride something so different. So we did a year of B100s and we had a lot of fun together. I mean, that horse could cover the ground like nothing else. He was quite petite. I think he only just made 16 hands. And like I say, he was a little pocket rocket, a speedy little thing. I did struggle a bit in the show jumping with him because he was fast, but he didn't like you taking too much contact. So there was a lot of like trying to work out how to steady him without taking too much of a pull. But we had a lot of fun together, and I guess he definitely taught me how to go that little bit faster cross country and sort of allow the handbrake off a bit. So A lot of fun for one season with Sparky, and we obviously had him at home. And yeah, we had a good time together. Because Mr. Corporal was such a superstar, I became quite obsessed with his breeding lines and trying to see if there were any other siblings out there, which there were, and how they were getting on. And I happened to come across this lovely mare called Chick, who was a half sibling to Coop. So they both share the same sire. And I was like, oh my goodness, we need to go and see her. So she was for sale on like a Danish horse quest type thing. And I was like, we have to go and see her. She was quite cheap. I must say, she was quite cheap. She was about 8 or 9, hadn't done anything at all. So I managed to persuade my dad to go over to Denmark with me. We went and saw her. Tried her in this indoor school, didn't jump her or anything like that, just rode around, had zero control over her. But because she was quite cheap, I just remember thinking, let's just take a punt on her. You know, she shares some of Coop's bloodlines. She's got to be good. And as you can see from the pictures, she had an incredible jump on her. She was an absolute powerhouse. So we started training her. Like I said, she'd never hacked before or anything. And she took to it pretty well, really. She was always very bold. She was never really afraid of fillers or anything like that. Now, her one major issue was she was incredibly strong. Like, I mean, the strongest horse I've ever ridden. I mean, Artie's strong, but not compared to Chick. Chick would just bomb at the fences, and it didn't matter what you had in her mouth, she wasn't going to stop. And I loved her enthusiasm, but it did make sometimes jumping her a little terrifying. And we did do some British eventing with her for one season. I think she had a few placings, but we decided that she was actually a slight danger cross country because she just went so fast at times. And you know, they're just sometimes, you know, when you take a half halt and you want them to sit and wait and listen, she just didn't do that. So then we just played around with doing British dressage and show jumping with her, and she was great. Like, she was a lovely mover, if anything slightly better than Corporal, but a bit more tense, a little bit more fiery. So we had Chick for quite a few years. Her and Corporal was such a lovely combination. They got on so well. And then sadly, she became ill. So she started losing some weight. She had a couple of colic episodes, which was, at the time, there was no blockage or anything. And it was sort of, we couldn't quite work out what was going on. She went away to like a big equine hospital and had lots of tests, and no one sort of knew what was going on. But sadly, when that started off, she colicked quite a few times, and we ended up losing her, which was such a shame, because not only was she a beautiful mare, but I really, before she became poorly, really wanted to breed from her because I wanted to be able to continue those bloodlines. So it was absolutely devastating when we lost her. And as much as she was such a strong mare, she was so talented. I mean, I always said she'd have made a fantastic puissance horse because she was incredibly scopy. And really, it didn't matter how big you put those fences, she would always jump them. I often used to whack them right and go on then, attack that. And she just would. And you'd be thinking, oh my goodness. So yeah, we sadly lost Chick. Couldn't miss this chap off, this lovely white Spanish stallion Blue Boy, who I was very fortunate to ride at work and school regularly, and then his owner said that I could take him to a few competitions. So Blue had actually competed to quite a high level in his younger years, and I got to sort of play around schooling him in his later years, and I took him out to do my very first advanced medium on him. I got to do a couple of shows on him. He was fabulous to ride, absolutely fabulous. I'd never ridden a Spanish horse like that, so to feel the kind of uphillness of them, and I mean, he could piaffe and passage all day long, so I used to spend many a time at work just up in the arena playing music, just playing around with Blue and having a whale of a time. He actually was quite cheeky at our first advanced medium because, having trained to a higher level, he just thought it was quite boring, so he just added in flying changes and started bouncing on the spot wherever he fancied. So I don't actually think we got the world's greatest scores, but I had a great time, and I think Blue loved it too. So I had many a fond memories of enjoying playing around on the arena with this very handsome chap. Now we move on to this handsome devil, obviously Artie, who I found at a dealer's yard in Newbury. He'd been imported from Ireland, from Goresbridge Sales. He was pretty cheap because he had a really bad sweet itch. When I saw him, he had one shoe on. He looked like an absolute mess in the back of the stable. He looked terrified. I've never seen a horse look more terrified than Artie did. And I think partly I wanted to rescue him. So I brought Artie home. And even though he's, bless him, he obviously has had issues with his hind suspensories from, you know, being aged 5. It was something he was born with. I've had a lot of fun with Artie, and he absolutely cracks me up on yard every day. He is a dream to jump. He's never looked at a show jump in his life. He's a bit strong and not the easiest to stop from time to time, but he puts a smile on my face, and that's the most important thing. So I would be lost without my dear Artie, who is a bit of a quirky one, a bit of a sensitive one. I think that's all thanks to Grandpa cruising. Very well-bred Arties. He went from looking like a lovely sort of lightweight sports horse to a fully grown cob. He looks more like full Irish Draught now than anything else, but yeah, we love our Arts. And here my horse journey comes to an end. So the last horse I purchased was obviously Sienna, which I got back in 2021, and she came from a very well-known stud where she had been bred, and she's very exciting. I mean, she is definitely a horse that is testing me. She's probably the sharpest horse I've ever had, and probably the brightest as well. I'm hoping no more trips to hospital because of Sienna, but I am very excited about her for the future. I already see so much talent in her. She's got such a natural ability for piaffe and passage. Just sometimes when she's just loose schooling around the arena, I watch her and I'm just so excited with her movement and all that. So I'm hoping this year that we're going to really grow and progress and bond even more. She's the cuddliest, softest mare I've ever come across. I mean, in the evening, you could literally sit in a stable with her all night long cuddling her, and she just adores things like that. But definitely full of sass. And definitely keeping me on my toes, but I do think she's super exciting, and obviously she's absolutely stunning. So thank you for listening to my very long vlog on the many horses and ponies that I've had through my life. I've been incredibly lucky to have ridden so many beautiful animals and gained so many beautiful rosettes and prizes because of them. I have been truly spoilt by them all, and they all really do have a place in my heart. Like, I love every single one of them, and there's many more that I haven't added to this that have been horses that I've ridden at work and I have thoroughly loved. So yes, I'm one very, very lucky girl.